In Iran, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has held several meetings with some of the heads of government who are coming to the Persian capital to join the millions of Iranians honoring the memory of President Ebrahim Raisi and his 86 comrades. Spain, Norway, and Ireland are set to formally recognize Palestine as an independent state on May 28th. In Argentina, opposition deputies managed to install budget and education commissions to increase the university budget. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Iran, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, met with some of the heads of governments coming to the Persian capital to honor the memory of President Ebrahim Raisi and his 8 martyr comrades. In that respect, the first delegation to arrive in Tehran was the Palestinian resistance, followed by officials from Iraq, Qatar, Egypt, China, and others, while several international representatives are on their way to attend the ceremony, which will take place at 4 p.m. local time on Wednesday. In this context, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, led the prayers over the bodies of President Ebrahim Raisi and his comrades in the presence of millions of people accompanying the funeral procession. The 8 coffins of the victims of the helicopter crash were received by local people and representatives of international religious delegations at the University of Tehran. The martyrs were mourned by attendants with flowers, pictures, and pledges of eternal loyalty, with the crowd also expressing messages of solidarity with the Palestinian cause. In India, Mumbai mourns the martyrdom of Ayatollah Raisi and his entourage, organized by Isna Ashari Youth Foundation at the Masjid-e-Iranian Mosque on May 21st, 2024.
The condolence program started with a recitation of the successive verses of the Quran by Qari Mirza Hassan, a famous reciter and poet. The program was attended by numerous people, including dignitaries and scholars, as Maulana Sis Haidar, Maulana Mohammed Karavi, Maulana Adil, Maulana Jawar Abbas, Maulana Sheikh Shabir Reza, and many more. The religious leader, Maulana Muhammad Faijaz Bakir, delivered his first speech and enlightened the importance of Ayatollah Raisi not only for Shia Muslim, but for the whole Islamic religious community. Maulana Saki Hassan described the personality of Ayatollah Raisi and his service to humanity. He also remembered that in the martyrdom were present also 2 authoritative interpreters of the religious law of Islam called Mujtahid. Maulana Kumail Asghar from the Indian city of Pune started his speech with a poem attributing Raisi. The poem included verses such as, and quote, "He was a star that rose from east and then got his wind in center and attained the call of his Lord in west." The Indian religious authority also announced that his country declared one day of state mourning. The program concluded with the speech of a senior scholar of Mumbai, Maulana Syed Hussain Mehdi Hussaini, who highlighted the importance of martyrdom for the Islamic Republic to stand strong. The religious leader recalled that when Imam Khomeini departed, all the enemies were happy, but Imam Khomeini proved that his death was to keep Islam thriving.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Imran Hill attended the funeral of President Ebrahim Raisi. Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdulhai and the members of the entourage who died on Sunday, May 19th, in a helicopter accident. On the social media X, the head of the Venezuelan diplomacy said he was attending the state funeral on behalf of President Nicolas Maduro and the Venezuelan people. He pointed out that both are honoring the life and legacy of an outstanding global leader and defender of the anti-imperialist peoples. He added that Venezuela reiterates its commitment to friendship and solidarity with Iran, remaining a faithful and constant ally. The state funeral, attended by heads of state, foreign ministers, and political representatives from different parts of the world, is headed by Mohamed Mokhber, who was first vice president in the Raisi cabinet and now is the acting president. In this context, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill gave an exclusive interview to Hispan TV media. Hill highlighted the country's ties with Iran and described their mutual cooperation of the last 2 decades as historic, while reiterating his long-term vision for relations with the Islamic nation. During the interview, the Foreign Affairs Minister further lamented the death of President Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian Foreign Minister, and their comrades.
President Raisi and President Maduro have been working very intensively for the last 2 years. In the year 2022, in June 2022, here in Tehran, a strategic alliance was signed, a 20-year strategic cooperation program between Iran and Venezuela, a vision for the future. So we are strategic partners and we have a long-term vision of relations.
During the interview with Hispan TV, the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill reported on new forums of cooperation between Venezuela and Iran.
We planned with the foreign ministers this coming Saturday, a meeting or a negotiation table here in Tehran precisely to advance in all political aspects, economic agreements. Cooperation is going to take place and is scheduled to be held in Caracas soon. The Joint Cooperation Commission, where all projects, energy projects, transport, maritime transport, agriculture, education are in the framework. Cultural issues have also been advancing very strongly because Venezuela are 2 countries with a truly multicultural and complementary culture. More and more in Venezuela, the Persian culture is perceived and is valued. It is already learned by Venezuelans, and Latin culture is also increasingly being sold in Iran. It has an important presence that we complement each other.
Let's take now a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. You'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Well, coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Spain, Norway, and Ireland recognized Palestine as an independent state on Wednesday. The measure will be formally adopted by the 3 countries on May 28th. The Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre gave a press conference in Oslo in which he assured that there can be no peace if Israel and Palestine do not have their own states. Hours before, the Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Barth had assured that if the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu touched Norwegian territory, he would be arrested in accordance with the decision of the International Criminal Court.
So this is both to say that we will recognize Palestine as a state, which has been long in the making, that the moment is right, but that the context in which we do that is support for this regional comprehensive peace vision.
In this regard, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced that his country will join those in the world that recognize the Palestinian state.
I would like to inform you that after having reached a consensus decision between the 2 parties that formed the pro-resistance coalition government and echoing the majority sentiment of the Spanish people, next Tuesday, May 28th, Spain will approve in its Council of Ministers the recognition of the State of Palestine.
On the other hand, Pedro Sánchez assured in a clear message to the European governments that in the defense of human rights there must be no double standards.
Therefore, we cannot allow, the countries that defend human rights and the international order based on rules, we are obliged to act in Ukraine and in Palestine without double standards. We are obliged to do everything in our power, sending humanitarian aid as we are doing, assisting refugees and displaced people as we are doing, but also using all the political levers to say loud and clear that we will not allow the destruction by force of the possibility of the 2 states, which is the only just and sustainable solution to this terrible conflict.
In the meantime, Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris declared that this was a historic day in the search for peace and security for Palestine and Israel.
It is a statement of unequivocal support for a 2-state solution, the only credible path to peace and security for Israel, for Palestine, and for their peoples.
The Palestinian government on Wednesday thanked the European governments that decided to recognize the independence of the state. In this regard, President Mahmoud Abbas affirmed in an official statement that his government appreciates the contribution of this decision to the Palestinian people's right to self-determination in their land and to the adoption of real measures to support the implementation of the two-state solution. In the meantime, the Palestinian leader also called on the countries of the world that have not yet recognized Palestine as a state to do so in accordance with the solution based on resolutions of international legitimacy. In Rafah, southern Gaza, thousands of Palestinians have been under heavy shelling and crossfire for the past 12 hours. The attack occurred as Israel is engaging in hefty clashes with the Palestinian resistance, while in the Tal al-Sultan town, the few agencies in the area also reported heavy shelling by the regime. The current situation in the Gaza Strip continues to escalate despite repeated warnings from humanitarian organizations, Palestinian media and the Gazan leadership. Neither the United Nations nor the international community have taken actions to avert the catastrophe that thousands of Palestinians are experiencing. In this setting, even the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, which used to have an unwavering presence, suspended food distribution due to the insecure conditions. In the Jenin refugee camp in northern West Bank, the Israeli army has again launched a lethal raid. The journalist Omar Menasera shared his own experiences and denounces being targeted by Israeli army shots despite his press identification.
I'm the journalist Omar Menasera. We were covering the news inside the Jenin camp. We were at short distance from the entrance of the camp. We could see military equipment and bulldozers. After covering the news, we proceeded to move to a nearby place. It was near the Jenin public hospital. The army was about 100 or 150 meters away from us. Of course, we could see it, and we tried to be visible to the military teams and let them know that we were journalists. We were the only ones in that street. Just as we arrived at the entrance to the public hospital, they began to shoot at us directly. I tried to enter the hospital, as did my fellow journalists. We were able to enter, and I was hit by a bullet fragment. Later, they continued shooting extensively, which means that it was intentional to attack the journalists.
In the United States, a tornado described by regional authorities as apocalyptic left multiple people dead in Iowa. State Police spokesman Alex Tinkler said that so far 12 people have been reported injured, all of them from the community of Greenfield. The town of barely 2,000 inhabitants has been under a mandatory curfew since 10 p.m. local time on Tuesday, which will last until 7 a.m. on Wednesday, with the media being evacuated from the area. The tornado that devastated the community was as a result of the powerful storms that have been hitting the U.S. Midwest as part of a severe weather threat. In Cuba, members of the Forest Ranger Corps control one of the forest fires in the municipality of San Juan y Martinez in the western province of Pinar del Rio. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Pereda, head of the Forest Ranger Corps, reported that local agricultural workers and farmers from the place known as Agua Dulce arrived at the affected place to help prevent the fire from spreading further. The rain was also another ally in putting down the flames. Nevertheless, between 150 and 156 hectares of Pino Caribea Joven were affected by the fire. We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Libertarian government in Argentina suffered a heavy defeat this Tuesday. Opposition deputies managed to install budget and education commissions to increase the university budget. With 152 votes of the Peronist Union for the Homeland, the Left Front and Center parties defeated the right wing Together for Change and the ruling Libertarians, who could only add up to 81 votes in a session that lasted more than 5 hours. The initiative presented by the opposition are meant to declare the budget emergency and update the financing items for the national public universities of the country.
When we are brought here to discuss laws that have to do with the university, as if the university were an island, we are very surprised, because those of us who are moved, when we hear the stories of boys and girls who have to stop studying because they can't pay the rent, because they were fired from their jobs, and can't continue working to pay for their studies. We know that the cuts that are being made to the public university, and that we are trying to deal with today, and we don't know yet if it will be successful or not, is not an isolated act. It is part of the brutal cuts that the government of Argentina is carrying out.
Also in Argentina, health workers and teachers continue on strikes and marches against the government of Javier Milei amid the economic crisis. The Federation of Health Workers and Teachers Associations began protests on Wednesday to fight cuts in salary adjustments. Demonstrators further expressed the value loss of wages, with the accumulated inflation of 8.8% in April getting worse, adding the authorities don't back them up to sort out the percentage wage increase. Moreover, workers called for 48-hour strikes to make the conflict visible by not attending to work and urged to initiate a national plan of actions to remark the wage claim to the fullest extent. The unions are preparing a national strike for May 23rd. In Vietnam, Parliament approved an appointment issued by the Communist Party with the purpose of naming Tu Lam, current Minister of Public Security, as the new president of the country. The poll resulted in 472 votes in favor out of 473 present. The new head of state sworn in at the parliamentary headquarters. Tu Lam is 66 years old, holds a doctorate in law, and has been condecorated several times. He pledged his absolute loyalty to the country, the people, and the Constitution during his inauguration speech at the National Assembly meeting on Wednesday in Hanoi, the capital of the country. President of China Xi Jinping already congratulated the Parliament of Vietnam and Lam for the presidency. In this context, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, expressed in a post on the social media X that on behalf of the Venezuelan people, he congratulates Tu Lam, who was sworn in as president of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. In this sense, he also stressed that his government reaffirms its commitment to continue to raise bilateral fraternal relations to the highest level in the various areas of cooperation. Let's move on to the National Basketball Association, where the first match of the Eastern Conference Finals was won by Boston Celtics by 5 points. Precisely, the TD Garden was the venue of the first game of a best-of-7 series, with the Indiana Pacers being beaten by the local team with a final score of 133 to 128. It should be noted that the game was defined in overtime after the Celtics player Jaylen Brown tied the game at 117 points. For the Boston team, Jason Tatum led the win with a total of 36 points and 12 rebounds. Meanwhile, for Indiana, Pascal Siakam scored the team's highest score with a total of 24 points. In football news, on Wednesday, Bayer Leverkusen and Atalanta met in the UEFA Europa League final at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. Precisely, this was the third meeting between these two clubs in this Euro tournament, with the Italian league club winning both games. In this regard, Bayer Leverkusen, led by head coach Xabi Alonso, are the favorites, but were not able to win in this final game and lost. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.